My son used to be the greatest pride of my life. But on the day he pointed his finger at my face and shouted, "Don't you dare argue with my wife in her own house!" I finally understood that as his mother, I had become an outsider in the very home I had shed blood and sweat to build. Fine then. If they believed this was their house, I would make sure they learned what it meant to lose one. And just an hour later, they were standing outside the gate, begging and crying in desperation. I had just stepped into the house, hands still trembling after nearly an hour at the grocery store. The handbag on my shoulder hadn't even made it to the floor when I saw Mary lounging comfortably on the white sofa in the living room, eyes fixed on the large TV screen. I walked over and poured a glass of chilled orange juice I had just picked up from Whole Foods. The frosted glass was slightly slippery in my hand, but I managed to hold it steady. I brought the glass toward her and offered a gentle smile. "Mary, have some juice. It's hot today. I just bought it. Very fresh." As I handed her the glass, my hand tilted slightly, and a thin streak of juice spilled onto the polished black ebony table in front of her. I bent down quickly to wipe it, but before I could, Mary jumped up. "Oh my God, are you blind or what? How clumsy can you be to mess something up like this?" I froze, still holding the glass. Her eyes were sharp, cutting straight into mine. Did you just say that to me?" She pointed directly at the table, her voice dripping with contempt. "That table costs $100,000. Do you even realize that? You're old. You shouldn't be doing these things anymore. You're just useless." It felt like a knife to my chest. I looked at my daughter-in-law, the woman I once trusted to care for this home when I no longer could, now calling me useless right here, in the very place I had poured my youth and strength into building. "Mary, do you even hear yourself right now? Did you just call your mother-in-law useless?" She crossed her arms, still staring at the small water stain on the table, not even bothering to look at me. Her face cold, without the slightest hint of remorse. I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing myself to stay calm. Yet deep inside, I knew something had already cracked, and this time, I was no longer certain it could ever be mended. I stood frozen in the middle of the room as footsteps echoed from the hallway. Kevin stepped out of the bedroom, his face blank, carved from stone. The moment he saw me and Mary, he didn't ask what had happened, didn't bother to check if I was okay. He simply walked over and placed himself between me and his wife. "Mom, stop talking. Don't raise your voice at my wife. This is Mary's house. You're just someone staying here, so act accordingly." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. Every word from his mouth sliced through my skin. My body stiffened. That sentence wasn't just him taking her side. It was a brutal denial of the love and sacrifices I'd poured into raising him for over 30 years. Her house. "Son, have you forgotten who built this place from the ground up?" Mary didn't even let me finish. She scoffed, then casually draped her arm over Kevin's shoulder, as if claiming her territory right in front of me. "Did you hear that, Mother? My husband understands me better than you do. Everything in this house, even that table, belongs to me. If you ruin it, you pay for it. You're old and clearly not thinking straight." My eyes stayed locked on Kevin. I waited for a flicker of hesitation, any sign of conflict in his gaze. But there was none. He simply nodded, then turned to me and spoke in a flat, cold tone. "Did you hear what she said? She's not wrong. Go grab a cloth from the kitchen and clean it. And from now on, don't touch my wife's things." At that moment, I could no longer hear the TV. The room was still lit, but something inside me had completely shut down. All those days of silent endurance, those quiet dinners, and the moments I kept reassuring myself that my son was simply being influenced by his wife were now completely gone. I walked slowly toward the wine cabinet, opened the bottom drawer, and took out the phone and the spare keys I had always kept hidden. My voice came out steady, without a trace of emotion. "John? I need you to bring a locksmith to my house immediately. Replace every single lock on the gates, the front door, and the windows. Right now, please." I was still facing away from them when I ended the call, but I could feel every movement behind me. A heavy silence fell across the room, like someone had just thrown a stone into still water. I turned around. Kevin's face had drained of all color. Mary stood frozen, as if the blood had been sucked out of her body. "Mom, what the hell are you doing?" Kevin's voice trembled. All the confidence he had earlier was gone. I said nothing. I looked straight into his eyes. That look I knew would stay with him for the rest of his life. "You must be out of your mind. Are you seriously locking us out of our own house?" Mary nearly screamed. Her voice cracked between shock and pride, but I didn't respond. My answer was silence, and the firmness of my actions. I leaned back against the now locked door, exhaling slowly. Outside, Mary's shouting and Kevin's panicked voice were beginning to fade into exhaustion. I closed my eyes. They would probably think I was crazy for doing this. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't lashing out because of some spilled juice. What I let go of today was the weight of all the silent disrespect I had swallowed for months on end. The memories came back in waves, like a cold wind slipping into my chest. I remember last month's dinner vividly. That evening, I had made steak, using a rare cut of tenderloin I had only dared to buy once in a long while. I sliced it carefully and plated it. When I brought the tray to the table, I picked the best piece for myself, just once. A small treat for this old mouth that hadn't tasted good red meat in ages. I had barely placed it on my plate when Mary glanced over. Her mouth was still chewing, but her voice was loud and clear. "Mom, that cut is high in cholesterol and fat. It's bad for your health at your age. Let Kevin have it. He's been working hard all day." Before I could say a word, Kevin reached over with his chopsticks, picked up that exact piece, and gently placed it on his wife's plate. "Mary's right, Mom. You should eat the salad. It's better for your health." I didn't look at them again. I just lowered my head and quietly bit into a piece of potato. It was soft and buttery, yet it tasted like nothing. In that moment, I felt like a servant at a meal I had cooked myself. Last week, Kevin came home from work looking tired. I poured him a glass of orange juice, sat beside him, and spoke softly, trying to encourage him. "Hang in there, son. Back when I built the company and bought this house on my own, the struggle was 10 times harder. But I made it through." I had just finished my sentence when Mary called out from the kitchen, her voice laced with open sarcasm. There she goes again with her stories. "Times have changed, Mom. Whatever you contributed back then is in the past. Kevin and I are the real owners of this house now." I turned to look at Kevin, hoping he would say something to disagree. But he didn't. He just nodded. "She has a point, Mom. You should focus on enjoying life now. Let the past stay in the past." Right then, I felt something tighten in my chest, as if my entire life had been reduced to a dull footnote no one wanted to read anymore. 3 days ago, the morning was cool and gentle. I was tidying the room and opened the wardrobe to grab a wool scarf when I suddenly realized something was missing. The old diamond bracelet, the only keepsake my mother had left me, was no longer in its usual place. I hurried downstairs to the living room and found Mary sitting there brushing her hair. On her right wrist, the bracelet shimmered in the morning sunlight. "Mary? Why did you take that bracelet from my drawer?" She didn't flinch. She just pouted, eyes still fixed on the mirror. "You're old, Mom. What's the point of wearing something like this? I wear it better. Besides, everything in this house will be mine eventually anyway. I turned to Kevin, still trying to stay calm. Kevin, that bracelet belonged to your grandmother. It's a family heirloom. Kevin picked up the remote, turned off the TV, then glanced at me with a tone so casual it felt like a breeze. Mom, it's just a bracelet. Let Mary wear it. She really likes it. I said nothing more. I quietly turned away, my hand clenched so tightly my knuckles went white. I knew that to them, it was just another accessory. But to me, it was flesh and blood from memory, my mother's hand, a fragment of my youth, a piece of the life I thought they'd understand. The pounding on the door jolted me awake. The room came back into view under the warm yellow light, though inside me there was only cold. At that moment, I was no longer angry. I no longer longed to be understood. I only saw one truth clearly, that what I had just done was never about revenge. It was release. Release for a mother who had endured too much until she finally reminded herself, if you do not protect your own worth, no one else will ever see it. I stood inside the locked door, leaning lightly against the handle. The click of the lock was sharp and final. I could hear every breath I took, steady and loud in the silence. Outside, the quiet lasted only a few seconds. Then it began. Mary kicked hard at the door. The sound of her high heels pounding against the tile floor made the ground tremble beneath her. Do you even know what you're doing? Open this door right now. Who do you think you are, locking the two of us out like this? Kevin's voice came next. Not as loud as his wife's, but there was no softness in it either. Mom, stop being childish. Just open the door and let's sort this out quickly. We have things to do. I didn't respond. I wanted to hear what else they had to say. Mary's tone shifted. No more screaming. Now it was the voice of a woman used to getting her way. You hear me? Open this door right now, apologize to both of us, and maybe I'll still let you stay in this house. Otherwise, don't expect us to take care of you. You'll die old and alone, with no one by your side. Kevin followed up, though his words were hesitant, his voice thinner than before. She's right, Mom. Don't let a small thing like this ruin the whole family bond. I still said nothing. I had no intention of reasoning with two people so shamelessly willing to trade away respect and filial duty for an apology they didn't mean. Time passed. I could hear their footsteps pacing back and forth in the hallway. The first 30 minutes were filled with anger, then slowly gave way to fatigue. After nearly an hour, the sound of heels began to slow. Mary's voice, no longer sharp like a blade, softened noticeably, but I could sense the falseness in every word. Mom. Come on, I'm sorry, okay? I lost my temper earlier. Just open the door so I can grab my purse. I have something urgent to take care of. Just for a minute, please. Kevin's voice followed right after. It wasn't firm anymore. It sounded almost genuine, like a child starting to feel hunger as the night closed in. Mom, I'm hungry. Please stop being mad. Can we just have dinner together? Still, I said nothing. Silence was the only way to make them hear the very words they once so casually threw at me. Not long after, Mary lowered her voice, but I caught every word. That old hag is stubborn. Probably wants us to beg some more. Useless crone. I closed my eyes. Not from pain. I was too used to that kind of contempt spilling from her mouth. But this time, I didn't feel anything anymore. Cold, like a house in winter with the heat turned off. Cold, but clear and alert. 2 hours passed. The sky began to darken. The wind blowing in from the porch felt colder than usual, slipping through even the thick wooden door. I sat inside, the light in the room still softly glowing, but everything around me had grown strangely quiet. Outside, the tone of their voices started to change. Kevin slumped down on the doorstep. I heard his back rest against the door, then a long, uneven sigh. "Mary, I think Mom's serious this time. Did we go too far?" Mary didn't respond right away. But a few seconds later, her heels stomped hard on the floor, like she was releasing her frustration with every step. "Shut up. This is your fault. You've never once stood up to your mother. You let her get out of control. Now I have to fix this myself." Knocking followed. Not harsh like before. It was soft, steady, as if trying to appear sincere. But I had known that kind of pretense for a long time. "Mom, I know you love Kevin. Just look at him. He's tired and cold. If you really care about him, open the door." I still didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because I refused to let myself be fooled again. Another hour passed. By now, the wind outside had grown stronger, howling against the house. I could clearly hear Kevin's jacket being tossed by the gusts, flapping with each blast. Then I heard his voice shaky for the first time all day. "Mary, this is real. Mom's not bluffing. My phone and wallet are inside. We seriously have nowhere to go." Mary's voice was no longer soft like before. Instead, it carried clear frustration, followed by a curse I never imagined I would hear coming from my own daughter-in-law. "That cruel old woman. You see now? You're such an idiot. You're useless. You need to make her open the door right now." Kevin didn't fight back. He only stammered, his voice growing smaller with each word. "But what do we do now?" I heard Mary walk closer to him. Her voice dropped, like she was whispering into his ear. But I could still hear every word. "Cry. Start crying. Talk about how she raised you and sacrificed everything. She's weak when it comes to stuff like that. Shed a few tears and she'll melt. Hurry up, you fool." I closed my eyes, not out of anger, but because something inside me had turned cold, and that cold didn't come from the wind outside. It came from a heart that no longer wished to be soft. When I opened my eyes, I knew I had truly made up my mind. Kevin was now sitting on the ground, his face buried in his hands. I didn't know whether he was genuinely crying or just following his wife's orders. But from where I stood inside, I could clearly see his curled-up figure, fragile and lost, like a child who no longer knew what to cling to. Mary stood beside him, her face twisted with both anger and the cold. She kept glaring at Kevin as if her husband was a burden. There was no more pretending in her eyes. Only raw, unfiltered contempt remained. I heard it all. I saw it all. And in that moment, I understood. This was no longer about a spilled glass of juice, nor was it about a disrespectful word or a moment of favoritism. This was the final battle. A fight to reclaim the dignity and self-respect of a mother who had been treated as invisible in her own home. And I knew, this time, I could not afford to take a single step back. 5 hours had passed. Outside, night had fully settled in. There were no more shouts or curses like earlier. Instead, the voices had grown faint, hoarse, and trembling from the cold. I remained inside the house, a lukewarm cup of ginger tea in hand, my eyes fixed on the wooden door as if I could see straight through it. Then I stood up. The sound of the lock turning was quiet, almost delicate, yet I knew that for the two people outside, it might have been the loudest sound of the night. I didn't swing the door wide open. I left it barely ajar, just enough to see their faces. Kevin looked up first. His face was pale, eyes red and puffy from the cold and exhaustion. His shirt was wrinkled, hair tousled by the wind. His voice came out raspy, barely recognizable. "Mom, please, I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please have mercy and let me in to grab a coat and some pocket money. I'm freezing out here. Please, Mom." Before I could respond, Mary spoke up. She stood behind Kevin, head bowed, fingers entwined, as if she were auditioning for a part in some play. "Mom, I'm truly sorry. I had a terrible day. My boss yelled at me. I was overwhelmed with stress, and I snapped. I didn't mean it, I swear. Please forgive me. We just want to come inside, that's all." I said nothing. My eyes moved from my son's tearful face to my daughter-in-law's calculated one. Then slowly, I lifted my hand, holding an old envelope yellowed by time. "Do you recognize this, Kevin? And you, Mary, do you have any idea what this is?" Kevin squinted at the envelope, his voice catching in the air. That's... I gave a slight nod. "This is your father's letter, the last one he wrote by hand 3 months before he passed. In it, he told you this: Kevin, be a good son. Never make your mother sad. This house is her final keepsake, built from her sweat and tears. You must learn to cherish and protect it." I stopped and locked my eyes on Kevin. "And you? What have you done? You dare to call this your wife's house?" His hands trembled as he reached for the envelope in mine. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice breaking into a whisper. "Please, give it to me, Father." Tears welled up at the corners of his eyes. He clutched the envelope as though it were the last fragment of honor he had left. But before he could even open it, Mary snatched it away with a swift, ruthless move that caught even me off guard. "Kevin, you fool. Don't let her manipulate you. The dead don't know a thing. She's only using that useless letter because she knows you're weak and sentimental." Without hesitation, she hurled the envelope to the damp ground and crushed it under the heel of her shoe. The paper crumpled, the edges tearing apart. Kevin froze, then shouted, his voice breaking with fury. "Mary, what are you doing? That was my father's letter." Mary spun around, her face stripped of any pretense of remorse, her voice shrill and venomous. "Your father? What did he ever give you? Did he ever feed you a single meal? I'm the only one who truly cares for you, the one who makes sure you eat and sleep. Who do you trust, me or some worthless piece of paper? Stop crying like a child. Enough." Kevin said nothing. He lowered his head and slowly picked up the torn envelope from the ground. His hands were trembling. I could see his face, no longer defiant like before. His eyes now held disbelief, disappointment, and an unmistakable pain. For the first time, he looked at Mary with the gaze I had long hoped for. Not the gaze of a husband, but of a man finally waking up from a delusion. He just stood there, staring at the floor where Mary's footprint was still clearly pressed into the tile. His expression collapsed, as if something deep inside him had snapped. And me, from where I stood inside, I knew this was it. The moment had come, a turning point that would change my son forever. He would never be the same again. After the door slammed shut, silence settled like dust in the air. I stood on the other side, hand still resting on the lock, surrounded by a quiet so deep I could hear the wind slipping through the backyard fence. Kevin hadn't moved. He stayed crouched on the porch, carefully picking up the old envelope now smudged with dirt. His hands trembled as he brushed the mud off the paper, the way one might gently clean a framed photo of someone long gone. His voice caught in his throat. "How could you? How could you do that to my father's letter?" Mary stood nearby with her arms crossed, her face still tight with irritation. Without a hint of remorse, she turned on her husband and let her frustration pour out. "Are you seriously still on about that? It's just a piece of trash. What actually matters is how we're getting back into the house." Kevin looked up at her. His eyes were no longer just confused, they were wounded. "But you stepped on it. You called my father?" Mary cut him off mid-sentence, her tone sharp and unbothered. "Oh, enough. I'm exhausted. You should be worrying about your wife, not getting emotional over some dead man's letter. What good is crying over something that doesn't even matter anymore?" I was standing in the house, and I heard every word loud and clear. The way Mary talked about that letter, you'd think it was just some old scrap of paper, like it meant absolutely nothing. And Kevin? He just stood there, saying nothing. But that silence didn't come from shock. It came from something deeper. He was finally starting to realize the price he'd paid for being blind to the truth. I wasn't about to let that silence hang in the air any longer. I walked over to the dining table and picked up the tablet I had already set up. With a tap, the screen lit up, casting a pale glow onto the living room wall. The large TV facing the glass doors flickered on, bright against the night. I didn't need to open the door wide. My voice was calm, cold, and cut through the quiet like a blade. "Kevin, you're still wondering, aren't you? You said this was her house, that she's the one in charge. Then tell me this." The screen answered for me. I had prepared everything. The first image appeared crisp and undeniable. Mary, in a sheer nightgown, her head resting on the chest of a man I'd never seen before. And the setting? None other than the living room sofa. The same spot where I used to sit with Kevin and help him with his homework back in middle school. I glanced toward the door. I knew they were both frozen in place. The second photo came up. The two of them having dinner, wine glasses in hand, laughing at something only they knew. Same dining table. The one I had lovingly set every evening for this family. It was also the place where Kevin last said thank you to me 3 years ago. Then the final image appeared. Their bedroom, Kevin's own bed. Mary, naked, tangled in sheets with that same man. The camera angle caught everything, unapologetically clear. I said nothing more. There was no need. When the truth is this plain, it speaks for itself. And this time, it was Kevin's eyes I waited to see, because that, more than anything, would tell me everything I needed to know. Kevin suddenly stepped forward, eyes wide, finger pointed at the screen like he was begging the images to be fake. "Mary, who is that? Who is that man? Say something. You really brought another man into this house?" Mary froze like a statue, her face drained of all color. I could see her arm trembling. Her voice came out shaky, scrambling to pull together an excuse. No, it's not what you think. Kevin, please. That's my brother. He just came to visit from out of town. Your mother, she's cruel. She hates me. She made these fake photos to ruin my life. She photoshopped them." I didn't respond right away. I simply swiped across the tablet, changing the display. Then I looked up, locking eyes with Mary. "Your brother? You've always been good at lying. But ever since the day you stole my diamond bracelet, I knew what kind of person you were. I've had a private investigator following you for the past 3 months. So go on, why don't you read out loud what your brother sent you?" Right then, the screen shifted to a series of screenshots. iMessage conversations frozen in time, each line like a blade cutting through the thick, brittle air. "Joey, Kevin's house is gorgeous, babe. Super fancy. Just stay calm, get that property deed and drain his savings. Once that's done, ditch him. The house will be ours." The man replied, "Hurry up, I'm getting impatient. Kevin really is a clueless idiot. A guy with a wife like you, and he still doesn't see it." Mary wrote back, "Don't worry, he's so gullible. He believes everything I say, We're almost there." Kevin froze, as if someone had just punched him straight in the chest. His whole body began to tremble. His fists clenched, and he slowly stepped closer to Mary. Each step carried the weight of rage that had been building for far too long. "You pathetic liar," he muttered, his voice shaking. "You used me. Was I just a means to an end for you? Was it all about the house and my money?" Mary finally began to panic. Her eyes twitched, hands reaching toward him as if to plead. "Kevin, please, let me explain. I love you, I swear I do. He forced me, he threatened me." Kevin pulled his arm away with a sharp jerk that made Mary stumble backward. "Forced? He forced you into our bed? Forced you to call me an idiot? You manipulative fraud? Don't you dare touch me." He turned away, shoulders stiff, his hands still clenched. The veins in his neck stood out. His body trembled with each breath, and then the tears came. Silent at first, then heavier, streaming down his face without restraint. I stood still, watching my son fall apart. I had seen him blind himself in the name of love, bite his tongue out of loyalty. But only now, with the full weight of the truth finally exposed, did he truly wake up. And the cost of that awakening was a heart crushed from the inside. Not by a stranger, but by the one he once trusted more than anyone else in the world. I stood silently behind the glass, watching every movement, every reaction. Kevin hadn't moved an inch, frozen like a statue, his eyes vacant and distant. As for Mary, the moment all her lies were exposed, she could no longer keep up the act. She snapped. Her voice tore through the thick tension in the air, loud and venomous. "Yes, I cheated." "What? You're just figuring that out now? You idiot. I only married you for the house. You thought you mattered? You're a useless excuse for a man. Can't hold down a job, can't stand on your own. You come home and do nothing but eat and sleep. Who could ever love someone as pathetic as you?" Kevin said nothing. He stood motionless, fists clenched at his sides, his eyes hollow and full of quiet devastation. I knew each word from Mary was cutting deeper than any knife ever could. But she didn't stop there. She spun toward me, eyes blazing. "And you wicked old woman. Why don't you just die and save everyone the trouble? Hanging on like some leech. You think you're so clever? You're just a dried-up hag. A failure. Your husband died early, your son's a fool, and the only thing you've got left is a pile of dirty money." I didn't move. But this time, I spoke. My voice wasn't loud, but it rang out like a cold bell slicing through her madness. "You're right. I do have this pile of dirty money, and you'll never lay a finger on it." I picked up a thick folder and held it against the glass so both of them could clearly read the words on the cover. "Look closely, Kevin. This thing you and that woman have been dreaming of your whole lives, every document, every piece of ownership, it's all under my name. As for the savings account you tried so quietly to build up, I moved every cent out 2 months ago. The moment I found out Mary was sneaking around trying to transfer funds, I made sure there was nothing left to steal. The truth is, Kevin, you've never actually owned anything in this house. And you..." I paused. My eyes locked onto Mary, who was now panting like a cornered animal. "You're nothing more than an ungrateful squatter lost in some pathetic daydream." That was when Kevin broke. Tears streamed down his face, no longer restrained. His voice cracked, raw and small, like a child finally seeing the weight of his own betrayal. "Mom, I was such a fool, a disgraceful, ungrateful son." He suddenly spun around to Mary. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice shaking with rage that had been buried far too long. "Get out. Get the hell away from me. You cruel witch, I want you gone." Mary looked up, glancing around as if hoping someone might pull her out of a terrible dream. But all she saw was a house that had shut her out, a husband who had finally turned his back, and me, the mother-in-law she had once trampled over, now standing silently behind the glass, watching everything unfold. She whispered, her voice faint like wind slipping past the trees, drained of all strength. "No, this can't be happening." She collapsed onto the cold stone floor, but just moments later, she began crawling toward the door, as if some fragile spark of hope still remained. "Mom, please, I'm begging you. I know I was wrong. I truly am sorry. Please have mercy on me. I have nothing left. No home, no money, no husband. If you throw me out now, I won't survive. Please, I regret everything." Her cries rang out, frantic and unrelenting. Tears mixed with the rainwater, soaking the stone steps beneath her. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I didn't say a word. When she realized I remained unmoved, she quickly shifted tactics, like a cornered fox trying one last trick. She crawled toward Kevin inch by inch, slowly and deliberately, as if creeping toward a vulnerable prey. "Kevin, please, I know I messed up, but you understand me. I'm weak. He manipulated me. He seduced me." She choked on her words right where she intended, her tears falling right on cue, her voice trembling as if crushed by guilt. "I only did it because I wanted a better life for the two of us. Can't we start over? We don't need a big house or lots of money. Just you and me? That's enough. Please, Kevin." She reached for his sleeve, clutching it with shaking hands, and leaned in to kiss the back of his hand, as if none of it had ever happened. I stood there watching, fully aware that what unfolded before me was not remorse. It was nothing more than a worn-out act, the last performance of someone who had never known repentance. This time, whether Kevin would still be blind enough to believe, it was something only he could decide. Kevin looked down at the hand Mary was clinging to. He stayed silent for a moment, then suddenly pulled his hand away with a sharp, final motion, as if cutting off everything that remained between them. "Leave." Mary froze. Her entire body seemed crushed by that single word. Her chest rose and fell in fury, while the makeup on her face had dissolved into streaks of rain and tears. "So this is the end? You people are cruel. You are nothing but animals." She collapsed onto the cold ground, arms clutching her head, and let out a scream so raw it made even me shudder. Her sobs echoed through the night, like the cries of a wild beast being torn apart. I opened the door, just enough to let the silence break. I didn't step outside. I didn't approach her. I simply looked down, where Mary lay crumpled on the ground, stripped of every trace of arrogance or pretense. "Maria, pack up all of her things and bring them outside. I don't want a single item of hers left in my home 15 minutes from now." I didn't have to turn around. I knew Maria had been standing behind me for some time. Her voice came steady and calm, without the slightest hesitation. "Right away, Mrs. Susan." I gave a small nod and closed the door again. But I didn't leave, because in that moment, Kevin suddenly dropped to his knees. He didn't look at Mary. His eyes found mine, and in that look, something struck a deep chord in me. It was the look I had waited years to see, the one I had once given up hoping for. Mother. I don't expect forgiveness. I was blind, foolish, letting someone deceitful control my life. And worst of all, I turned my back on the one who gave me life and raised me. I've lost everything, and I deserve it. He bowed his head deeply. When he spoke again, his voice was low, weighted with what little strength he had left. "I'll go. I'll work. I'll live on my own. I won't ask for anything. The only thing I want now is for you, not to carry any more pain because of me. The fault was mine. All of it." I looked at my son for a long time. Longer than I ever had before. There was no anger left in me, only a quiet, lingering fatigue and contemplation. I spoke, slowly, but clearly. I haven't closed the door on you forever, Kevin. But love doesn't mean indulgence. You need to stand on your own feet. Live a life that is truly yours. No dependence, no deception. Show me. Show me that the son we raised is still there. That afternoon marked exactly 6 months since I slammed the door shut on the 2 ungrateful people who once called this place home. The sky behind the villa was unusually clear, and a soft breeze rustled through the climbing roses, gently stirring the peaceful air I had fought so hard to preserve. I was sitting under the porch, folding a hand towel, when Kevin walked toward me. He wore a simple gray t-shirt and faded jeans. His skin had tanned, his frame more solid after 6 months of real work. No leather shoes, no cologne, just my son once broken, now slowly relearning how to be a man. He bent down to water the purple daisies along the walkway, then suddenly set the watering can aside and pulled a small box from his pocket. Mom, this is from my 6th paycheck. I couldn't afford anything fancy, but the weather's getting colder, so I bought you this scarf. I paid for it myself. I didn't ask anyone for help. I reached out to take it. The scarf was neatly folded, made of soft yarn in a deep blue hue. He must have chosen it carefully. I tightened my grip on it just slightly, eyes locked with his. Thank you, son. I love it. To me, this gift is worth more than this entire house, because it shows that you've grown up. You've learned to stand on your own. You've learned to care about others. And most importantly, you've learned what love truly means. I'm proud of you. Kevin sat beside me, saying nothing more. But the silence didn't feel heavy. It was warm. A little while later, he looked out at the garden and asked quietly, "Have you heard anything about Mary?" I nodded. Yes, a few days ago, an old friend of mine who lives near her old apartment called to tell me. Mary's living in a rundown rental on the outskirts of town now. During the day, she works the counter at a second-hand shop. At night, she waits tables at a cheap bar. That man she ran off with disappeared long ago. Before leaving, he even left her in debt, something about convincing her to invest in some crypto scheme. She's been scraping together money just to pay off the interest. Kevin didn't say a word. I went on. They said her eyes don't shine anymore. They're always red, like she hasn't slept. Her face looks tired and thin, and no amount of makeup can hide the wear. There's nothing left of that arrogance now. Just a young woman who looks 10 years older, weighed down by debt. Kevin nodded. I know. 2 weeks ago, I was out on a delivery in Midtown. I saw her by chance. She was carrying plates to a table. When she spotted me, she ran after me, soaked in sweat, grabbed my arm. I gripped the scarf in my hands a little tighter, listening. She said, "Kevin, I'm sorry. I really am. Please help me. I'm drowning in debt. Life's been so hard." I asked him, "And what did you say?" His voice was calm but firm. I pulled my arm away and said, "Good luck. You and I, we're nothing now." I nodded, asking nothing more. Kevin looked down at the ground and let out a quiet breath. She stood there, crying in the middle of the street. I didn't look back. I didn't feel angry anymore. Just pity. A few weeks later, I heard from an acquaintance. Mary had left the city. She moved to a distant state, where no one knew who she used to be. She lived quietly in a small room, working odd jobs, repaying her debts, and slowly disappeared from the conversations of those who once knew her. That evening, Kevin and I were having dinner together in the kitchen. No more clicking heels, no more sharp-tongued remarks, only the soft clinking of the ladle against the pot and the sound of me placing a piece of fish into my son's bowl. Kevin looked up and quietly said, "Mom, my company is considering me for a promotion. I'll try even harder." I smiled. "I know you will. But what makes me happiest isn't the promotion. It's seeing you live with responsibility." He lowered his head and continued eating. His eyes were red, but not from sadness. It was because, for the first time in many years, he finally felt like a decent person again. This house, after all the storms it had weathered, finally became a true home. No more pretense, no more open wounds, only the quiet bond between a mother and her son, and a man who had just learned how to rise after the deepest fall of his life. In life, there are lessons only pain can teach. Not everyone is fortunate enough to turn back in time. But if there's still a mother waiting behind them, then that alone is a miracle. This story isn't just a warning for those who live in deceit, greed, and manipulation. It's also a message for the lost children who once strayed from the right path. If you truly wish to make amends, family can still be the place where healing begins. Love isn't about blind forgiveness. It is not a rug for others to wipe their feet on. True love is the courage to set boundaries so those we care about can grow through the pain without being destroyed by it. If you've ever experienced something similar, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the light someone else desperately needs in their darkest moment. And if this story moved you or made you reflect, please give it a like to support the channel. Leave a heartfelt comment and subscribe to Revenge Diary so you won't miss more stories filled with depth, truth, and powerful life lessons. Because sometimes, realization doesn't come from being taught. It comes from finally waking up.